What's up? It is Melissa T, the procrastination bully, with an offer for you. I am announcing a winter sale for the Getting the Win gear store. If you're someone, you've seen our shirts, you like the gear, you like what we're saying, hashtag get on that, hashtag luxury item, all the good things. If you're familiar with these catchphrases and you love them, they resonate with you, go to gettingthewingear.com. I've got a new winter collection that has launched. And I've got some new items there as well. Not just the winter collection, but a few other new items as well. So if you're someone who's navigated the trauma or transition, or if you're just somebody that's looking to beat procrastination in your own life and you want the clothing with the message to remind you that you are a winner and a go-getter, head over to gettingthewingear.com for all your swag. Use the code WINTER for 20% off your order. That's the code WINTER at checkout.
I am a 100% advocate for utilizing resources, speaking to therapists, getting counselors. If you need a little bit of medication to get you through a particular phase, then you do that. It's no different than taking pain meds after a surgery. You do that. It's not forever, and it doesn't have to be forever, but you owe it to yourself to face truths, walk through the truths, and heal yourself.
Good evening. Happy Wednesday, my winners and goal-getters. Welcome to the Getting the Win Show. I am your host, Melissa T, the procrastination bully. And today's episode, as promised from last week, is an interview. I have the wonderful Candace Mackey back on the show. She came on in one of the earlier seasons of the show. And this time I brought her back because she too is in the authorship process. She is in the process of working on her very first manuscript. She and I have been talking back and forth throughout that process. So she has an idea of the framework that I share with folks. She used some of the knowledge she learned from previous book services, other book coaches and things like that. So we'll talk about that in this episode, and we get into some personal stuff too. So there are a lot of gems in this episode. Come ready to take notes as always, and enjoy the conversation.
Listen, I am excited that you wanted to have me back. So thank you for giving me that call.
Stages of the show when I was focusing predominantly on the productivity side, like procrastination only. But since I've pivoted to authorship, you also have undergone a transition, not only in authorship, because now you're working on your book, and we'll get into that shortly. But you just recently undergone a life transition, and that speaks directly to the audience that I now speak to, women who've undergone either a trauma or transition, and you are now officially an empty nester. So we definitely gonna get into that. For sure.
You got me sweating already.
But let me just say, as like just a piece of fun trivia for you, like the favorite part of my last interview with you was the story you told about the little boy when you were in the grocery store, where he was talking fresh to his mom, where she was telling him he couldn't get something. And he looked at her and said, she told him to put the thing down. And he said, "I'll put it down when you buy it." And then you turned around and said, "This is no longer my aisle."
Bruh.
That is the favorite moment from your interview. From the last interview.
I don't have a whole lot of patience for disrespect. And that was like a tolerated disrespectful moment. And I was like, ooh, this is probably not the kid I need to speak to. So I'm going to go.
Exactly. Like my audience feels the same way. It became a whole inside joke with me and my family. Like we use that all the time. It's hilarious.
It's no longer my aisle. There you go. That's good.
Yeah, just
you have to put that on a shirt.
Yeah. That's a whole, believe it or not, like there's a message in that too. Like just the power of pivot and knowing when to leave a situation. You know what I mean? Like,
see, you just gave me a chapter title. Oh my gosh. I got to write it down in a minute. I'll write it down when we're done.
Yeah.
That's really good. That's
Yeah,
really good.
knowing when to leave a situation, and
Hmm.
this is actually a great transition into that, because your book, we were talking on camera, speaks to decision making, like the importance
Hmm.
of decision making,
Yes.
and kind of talk about that, like what inspired you to get started on the book, and what are you what will you be sharing with your audience, like once the book is out, what can audiences expect from it?
Sure. The, I've hit that stage where we know where we're going and you see it coming, and the next thing you know, you're in the middle of it. And that stage is I've turned into my mother. And mom, when you watch this, I do not mean this disrespectfully. I really don't. But it's that stage where you're really kind of reflecting on where you are and how you got here. And it's all about the decisions that you've made, right? It's deciding to leave a job, deciding to move or not move, deciding to leave a relationship. And when I'm 55, I love saying my age. I feel very blessed that I'm here. I'm still very able-bodied. I can't do the splits anymore, but I can still keep up with the dog and the kids, and we dance and we have a good time. But um when you hit that stage where like you mentioned already, I'm an empty nester, um and it's just me and the dog, and I get to make decisions that are good for me, and I don't what do I want to do now? And how did I get here? What have I accomplished? And did I do everything that I wanted to do? But I've also made some very powerful, as you put it, pivots in my life, based on decisions that I probably shouldn't have made, but I made them anyway. And now you got to walk through that valley, and then figure out how to pivot out of said valley. Um, and my experiences are unique, but not. There's all of everyone who's a parent is going to go through the empty nester phase. Even if they stay home, they're still adults and they have their individual lives and they're not dependent on you per se. Um, and if I've got experiences that can help people kind of go, oh, I remember Miss Candace said X, Y, and Z, and they see that thing coming, or they hear a person say a particular thing or begin to act a way, and they can pause and go, I probably don't want to do that. I don't want to invite all those people over. I don't want to make a decision to leave the home just yet, just because I feel like I want to be independent and out on my own. It's probably not the best decision to make, right? If they can pause and do that, self-awareness, lean on the wisdom, accept where I am, and give myself some grace if I don't make the greatest decision. They can do that, and they get that from the book and they get that from the conversations. Then we save some of the crazy in the world, and we don't have to go and have those really tough conversations saving people from really odd things. Then it just becomes a good, healthy conversation of how can you make a better decision later. So I'm calling the book, or so far the title of the book is Magic in the Middle. And it's because in my life, I wasn't the tallest, I wasn't the shortest, I wasn't the heaviest, I wasn't the skinniest, I wasn't the smartest. I certainly was not in any of the remedial classes. Shout out to those of you guys that had to have the extra assistance. There's nothing wrong with that. Um, but I didn't have the most money, but we weren't poor. Like I'm literally middle America. My mother went out of her way to put us in Catholic school, some private school. She felt like that education was better than public school. And but even that's not like the top education, but it wasn't public school either. And just being in the middle, I found a lot of power being in the middle, because then I can make decisions from the left, the right, the top, the bottom, the high, the low, right? Like I could choose to be better. I could choose to just allow myself to wither away. So there's magic in that middle because you have the power of choice. If you choose to see that you can pivot your perspective and then make alternative decisions. So that's kind of where we're going, where we're going to lace some of those pivotal moments in my life. And hopefully you guys get a lot out of it.
Yeah, for sure. Y'all, for you watching, I told her, like, this book is for me. Like, I am the avatar. Because I totally relate to that, like being in the middle. And while there is an advantage, based
Mm-hmm.
on what you just shared, there is also a bit of a danger to it. Like there are two sides to that coin, which is you can afford to be a chameleon if you're in the middle.
Yeah,
But at the same time, being in the middle, you can also succumb to being comfortable hiding. You know what I mean?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, go
Eve, ET told us about that, right? When we were in class together, ET was like, being good is one of the most dangerous places to be,
Yeah.
right? Because if you're hurting and you're struggling, then you're working to get out of the hurt and the struggle. Um, what did he say? He says, good is the greatest enemy to great.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're good, then you're comfortable. I got
Mm-hmm.
food, got a little cash in my pocket. My kids are doing all right, you know. My marriage is all right. At least I got a partner in the house. You feel like you're doing good. We take a vacation. We're making good money.
Mm-hmm.
But are you living your dream? Are you feeling fulfilled?
Mm-hmm.
Are you okay, camera? Are, are you living your dream? Are you feeling fulfilled? Are you doing the thing that makes you happy? Are you sleeping peacefully at night? I remember very vividly having a job, making really great money, living in a beautiful house, manicured lawn, the two cars outside that were all recent year vehicles, and we were absolutely miserable. It wasn't fulfilling work. The relationship was broken. Kids were miserable, but we looked good, right? We were
Mm-hmm.
living good, but there was no happiness and no fulfillment there. So, yeah, you can hide in the middle. It's so funny. I was thinking in the shower today about individuals that are in corporate America who feel like they love their job. And I remember telling myself I loved my job when I was in corporate America too. But the thought hit me this morning, I didn't love my job. I found love for the task that I was completing, relatively speaking. So
Okay.
I loved what I was doing in that space
Okay.
compared to other things that I could be doing in that space. But
Right.
if I thought about myself, my skill sets, the things that made me happy and feel fulfilled and made me feel like the work that I'm doing is the work that I'm supposed to be doing, that I'm affecting the most people and doing the most good, that was not in corporate America.
Mm.
I
Okay.
love my people, but I did not love my job. And you hear people all the time, I love my job. I love what I do. I think you love what you do, relatively speaking. That doesn't apply to everybody. But for
Right.
people who, really know that they have other talents and skills, you love what you do in the space that you're in.
Yeah.
But that's just my opinion.
Valid opinion, valuable opinion. And I don't want the audience to miss this part. For
Yeah.
those who did not catch the first interview we did, Candace very casually went over her framework in that previous answer, her swag thing. She slid it in that answer real slick, but she talked about self-awareness,
Mm-hmm.
wisdom, acceptance, and grace, which is
Mm-hmm.
her key framework there. So I'd love for you to unpack that a little bit more in detail, because I know you also plan to kind of talk about that in the book as well.
Oh, 100%. Um, it's interesting how I've become, kind of married to swag. It all started off with a Swagger Wagon ad that was, based out of Toyota. I'm not going to go into the deep, crazy things of it, but just go look up Toyota Swagger Wagon. It was an ad campaign for their Toyota Sienna. Anyway, and I loved my van when my babies were little. But as I got older and I was dealing with so many levels of disappointment with individuals in my life, um, and not realizing how my subconscious was pushing that anger and that disappointment out. And then obviously learning through extreme execution and Moose and ET and all the things that we did over there, it became, like the number one thing is self-awareness. Our number one tenet is self-awareness. Like you have to know who you are, how you're being received. I used to tell people all the time, you're not on the receiving end of you. And that's the key,
Yeah.
right? Like, how are you coming across? How are you saying the things that you're saying? How are you providing expectations? How are you showing up? That awareness is like the foundation of everything. And then once you're aware, like, all right, am I happy? Am I sad? Am I hot? Am I cold? Um, am I feeling pressure? Am I lonely? Am I not feeling well? Is there pain in my body? All of that affects how we speak to one another, how we show up to conversations, or make decisions to not show up to conversations.
That part.
Well, right? Right? And so I tell people, like, just do a self-evaluation. And which is different than the morning routine where you put your feet on the floor and how are you feeling today? And you write down on a scale of 1 to 10 from the sad face to the happy face. This is different. This is truly taking inventory of what are the thoughts that are going through your mind? How are you physically feeling? How are you fueling yourself? Because all of that manifests in how you come across to one another, right? And once you know that, then what do you know? What's the wisdom? Okay, so I know I had a really tough conversation with my partner yesterday, and that's still emotionally feeling strange to me. Or in my case, my daughter's been gone away from college, and I still have a little bit of a hole in my day because that's when she used to wake up and text me and say, "Good morning, mama." And I don't get that because she's in class now, right? Like it's those little subtle things where I go, okay, cool. I can now put how I feel and my emotions in context and go, okay, well, she's not purposely not messaging me. What do I know to be true, right? That wisdom. Lean on what you know to be true, not what you feel to be true, because your emotions will lie to you. From that acceptance piece, all right, so I know, like, I'm feeling some kind of way because I haven't heard from my daughter, but I also know that she's in class and she loves me dearly. And she already sent me a video at 5 o'clock this morning showing me the snow, right? So I just accept the fact that life is a little different now. Things feel a little different. And it's okay because it's not always going to be this way because you have the power of decision to move in a different direction. And if you don't like what it is right now and you want to make a change, or you're upset about a decision that you made or something that you said, give yourself some grace. You're still human. The people that you're interacting with are still humans, and we are all fallible. The only person that's perfect is God himself. So you have to grant yourself some grace. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to one another. We are all on this earth just trying to have a human experience. But that's why we have to be aware of how we're portraying ourselves so that, your experience and their experience can be better.
Absolutely. Thanks for one, thanks for sharing the framework, but two, thanks for also like weaving the current transition into
Mhm.
that, like being able to, the way you've now worked out the transition of your daughter heading off to college.
Mm.
For you watching, like I've been in contact with Candace through the transition, and it was a bit emotional. You know what I mean? Like that's your baby. You know what I mean? Like it's the youngest one, finally
Yep.
off to finally
The
spreading the
only
wings.
girl.
Yeah,
Uh,
you're
yeah.
like, is she gonna be all right? Because safety is a whole thing, and
Hmm.
fortunately,
And
she's
we
not
did.
far
We
from
had
you.
some.
Like,
No, 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 no. She's just a couple hours away. I think
yeah,
for me, the biggest worry that I had was we had some emotional challenges in high
mm,
school, that caused us to have to go out and go get some extra resources and some care for her. And praise God, she conquered those things and, graduated and felt really confident. But in working with her practitioners, I said, I just want to make sure that you make that transition into new friend groups and being by yourself and not being able to come and climb in the bed with me and talk through things, that you're going to be okay through that. Like that was my biggest worry is how is she going to make this transition emotionally into adulthood? But we worked really, really tightly for these last several years of putting people into context, right? Being self aware. Sheridan, you haven't had any sleep. So, of course, you're going to react, right? Did you eat today? Like all of those things affect emotion. And so, just making sure she's getting sleep, making sure she's eating, all of those things. But she's really, really done well so far this year. So, mommy's exhaling some more, but I pick her up tomorrow and she'll be home for the Thanksgiving break, and I'm super excited
awesome.
about it. Yeah.
That's really cool. So,
Yeah.
two things I want to delve into there, just based on you sharing that, and thank you for being so open to discuss this.
Hmm. Hmm.
But a couple of things there. One, I would love for you to talk about that process of bringing in those extra resources, especially,
Okay.
let's be real, we are Black women
Yes.
that
Yes.
come from a community that until recently
Yeah.
did not really consider or discuss those external resources such as therapy or things like that. So I would love for you to
Yep.
talk about how you navigated that for your daughter and what your, as someone who is the parent of someone getting this kind of care, what was that
Sure.
experience like for you?
It was when you think about your faith journey,
Mhm.
that was one of my biggest faith journeys outside of, being a teenage mom, right? Um, because it happened so quickly. Sheridan had been hanging out with some friends. Um, the friend was having boy trouble. She's my kid. And so she's heard me coaching and counseling and the theories that we use from an extreme execution, self awareness, personal improvement kind of perspective. And so she was just trying to be that really great friend. Like, this guy doesn't mean you any good. And the conversation turned because kids can be mean and they didn't want to hear her messing up what he felt like was a good thing. And so next thing I know, some conversations have ensued, and Sheridan was saying that she didn't want to be here anymore.
Mm,
And I had seen her have some emotional ups and downs, and we wrote them out together. And there was a point where I had to say to myself, this one's bigger than me. She's not
mm,
coming out of this one. She's not like, okay, I'm just going to go get some. Like, it was rough that night. And I made the decision to go take her to a facility that we have locally here that will do like immediate crisis care.
Mm.
And they did intake, and that they called me back and they were like, hey, so we want to keep Sheridan. And I was like, what? They were like, yeah, she's saying some things and we'd like to keep her under observation. And I just remember seeing my daughter just so wilted and
Mm.
defeated and exhausted, and having to walk away from her was really scary. And so she stayed at the facility. Very next day, all of a sudden, I'm getting these phone calls and like, hey, according to the physician, we'd like to have her transported. And I was like, absolutely not. I haven't talked to a physician. And it was just so much of, okay, God, I'm trusting you, but transporting her is not that. That doesn't feel like the right thing to do. And so it was a couple of days of really having these tough conversations with people. Like there was one day I got 6 phone calls from 6 different facilities. Hey, we got an order. We have a bed. We'd like to transport your daughter. We need you to authorize her to transport.
Whoa.
No.
Mm-hmm.
I'm paraphrasing a lot of what happened because there were a
Speed it
lot of
up.
tears. There were a lot of tears. There were a lot of heated conversations. And the key through this whole situation, and this is what I want people to understand, I was able to talk to her, right? Like I couldn't call, but she could call me. And because we had worked on our relationship so much and she trusted me, because one, she trusted our relationship enough to be able to call me and say, Mom, I can't do this. That's one, right?
Mm.
Having that tight enough of a relationship to know that your kid will call you when they're in crisis.
Mm.
And then two, she called me while she was in the facility, and I could hear her becoming more lucid, more aware, telling me what was happening, the people that she was meeting inside. And I wasn't getting the answers that I wanted. And they were trying to tell me something opposite of what I was hearing from my child, which is why I would never authorize, right? And I hit this like super mama bear dissatisfaction moment, and I was like, I'm coming to get her because I wasn't getting good answers from them. And I get there and they send a mother. They send a mother nurse practitioner out to come and talk to me. And it was like the best 45 minutes because she just really sat there and she talked to me mom to mom and explained the procedures in the facility. And then Sheridan called me again. She goes, Mom, are you really here to come and get me? I want to stay. They're helping me. And I said, well, I was going to come and get you because I didn't like and blah, 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 blah. And she goes, no, Mom, they're helping me. I want to stay one more night. And I said, okay. And you pray. And that was like the first night in 3 nights I'd actually gotten some sleep because you feel the presence of God. God was like, look, I'm doing the thing. I just need you to continue to trust me through this process. And I made the decision to let her stay. And I picked her up at the end of that week. And we stayed close. I called a good friend of mine because I know doctors and practitioners back in California. I had never had to deal with any of this here in Arizona. And we had been in Arizona 10 years at that time. And so I called a friend of mine. I said, all right, God, listen. You know, I know a lot of people here. Can you give me someone who knows this industry? And so I called a dear friend of mine. She was one of my first friends when we first moved here. And I said, hey, you know this industry. Give me some resources. And she gave me a couple of referrals who explained what was happening. And she was like, listen, there's a big grab for people to try to get back into these beds because they're losing money because of all of this stuff with COVID. She explained all of this, all the people who did really unfortunate things during COVID getting money because they knew there was no oversight. And I felt good that I didn't know that information, but I knew my daughter did not need to be transported, because once your child is transported, you can't pick them up. They have to stay until a physician releases them. And there was no way I was going to release control. But she ended up great. We found a really great facility with a practitioner. And it got me going with her to her appointments, got me to see some things that I probably should have gotten addressed a long time ago. And we chose medication to really kind of help her get on top of her emotions as she continued to go through having these conversations and talking through what was happening. And, like I said, praise God, she was able to say, I no longer need the medication, and she's done really well so far. But it was, when it's beyond you. You hear our people say, it's just a phase. You're just tired. Shake it off. Go get some rest. You're tripping. No, mental health concerns are real. And you're doing yourself, your children, your partners, your families, your coworkers a huge disservice if you don't take the time to go have a conversation with another individual who's skilled in this work to really help you see that there are ways to get out of, to heal from, to walk through and talk through the things that hurt you. That deflection is because you feel like you're not ready to address things that are painful, that may bring shame to family members. But this is your walk and this is your story, and you deserve to be happy and to be healed. So I am a 100% advocate for utilizing resources, speaking to therapists, getting counselors. If you need a little bit of medication to get you through a particular phase, then you do that. It's no different than taking pain meds after a surgery. You do that. It's not forever, and it doesn't have to be forever, but you owe it to yourself to face truths, walk through the truths, and heal yourself.
Was that an awesome conversation or what? Be sure to tune in next week. I always have great conversations on this show, of course, the Getting the Win show, whether it's me dropping gems, just solo, or if I'm sharing the mic with some other brilliant people. But as always, come on back. Come always ready to take notes, because there's always gems. And everything you need from what you heard in today's episode will be in the show notes. So be sure to go down in the show notes, follow those links, click, follow, subscribe, all that fun stuff. You can subscribe on YouTube if you're watching this on YouTube at Getting the Win. You can follow me on Instagram, Pinterest, and Threads at Getting the Win Show. I am on TikTok at Melissa T. Writes, and I am on Spotify. Just look for the Getting the Win Show on Spotify. And as I mentioned in a couple of episodes now, I'm also on LinkedIn. I've been on LinkedIn for quite a while, but yeah, you can find me over there at Melissa Thomas, first name, last name. And of course, that is with 2 L's and 2 S's. So again, be sure to come back next Wednesday for another value-packed episode, and have a great and productive rest of your Wednesday today, and a great and productive rest of your week. Peace.